Hey guys, MCU Collect here with another figure review. Next up is the Tree New Toys, the White Ranger and the Green Ranger, officially titled, what did they call it? Green Sun and White Warrior? Yes, 112 Green Sun and White Warrior. These are third-party, not officially licensed Power Rangers figures. So we got the White Ranger, obviously very recognizable, but we have the Green Ranger, which is in a slightly different suit, and I think that suit, I don't know if it originated in the YouTube short film, like Green Ranger versus Ryu from Street Fighter. I think that's where it originated from. Jason David Frank wore the suit in that short film and everything like that. I think the suit has been used for a different version of a Green Ranger by a different character in the comics. I might be confused on some of that, but I like Power Rangers, and we had two pretty cool looking Power Rangers figures, so I wanted to check them out. So Tree New Toys, I got my figures from Collectibles. Last I saw, they were in stock, so I'll have a link in the video description below. You could buy the Green Ranger by itself, you could buy the White Ranger by itself, or you could save a few bucks and buy them both together. So I'll have a link in the video description below to Collectibles where I got it from. But you can get it, I think, VC Toy Box. 5K Toys, I'm not sure, but VC Toy Box had it at one time. I don't know if it's in stock. But here we go. So let's go ahead and get into it. You can see they are on card backs. The card backs are a kind of cool design. We got Bulk and Skull kind of in the background there. And you can actually see Bulk is, playing with a White Ranger toy. I think Skull might be playing with Green Ranger. I can't really tell because he's hidden by the figure. Both cards are the exact same, so they're not any different between the two Rangers. I would have preferred a box. That way I could put them back in the box if I wanted to. But otherwise, I'm going to have to kind of figure out something to do with them. Looking at the back of the package, we get some Japanese lettering, I'm sure, and then you just kind of get this silhouette of, I assume, Tommy Oliver doing, a kick. As you can see, this is an adult collectible. It says, attention, this product is for collection, decoration, or play by people aged 18 and above. Please do not use it if for people aged 17 and below. So they're telling you you gotta be an adult. But you can see up there 112 Green Sun and White Warrior. So without further ado, let's go ahead and rip these things open and let's get these figures out of the package and let's take a look. Okay, so here are the figures out of the package, and one thing so I guess this one's kind of difficult for me. So I do not have a lot of experience with third-party figures. I have the Muff Toys Time Agent, or whatever it's called. I forget what he's called, but it's the Muff Toys Loki figure. That is a very good third-party figure. Like, you can always tell, like, the base body, the plastic body itself is probably not great. What they do nicely is like the soft goods and things like that, and the accessories might be super dope, right? So that's kind of the thing to understand, I think, when it comes to third-party figures. At least for me, that's the experience that I'm having here. So when I have these figures in hand and I kind of mess around with them and move them around, they feel a little cheap, if I'm being completely honest. Like the body itself of the figure. Now the soft goods are pretty good. Like on Green Ranger, actually really good. On White Ranger, not as good, and I'll talk about that when I kind of go over that. But that's what we have going on. The accessories are pretty good. Not like the hands or anything. I'm not really talking about those. But like the Saba that we got here, this thing is pretty nice, as you can see there. It's detailed well. It's got a really good sculpt. We don't get painted eyes or have the black stripes in the back of his head, but the blade portion is really good. Now the Dragon Dagger itself here, this is done really nicely as well. We also get the Sword of Darkness. We don't have like the string on it or anything like that, but nice silver blade there, and it looks pretty good. So those accessories are nice. The Tommy Oliver head sculpts aren't great. Now granted, again, it's an unofficially or not licensed figure. So they're not going to get Jason David Frank's likeness, so they can't really make his likeness. Now, is there some resemblance there? I could see it, yes, but they don't really totally look like him. We get a long hair version for the White Ranger or the White Warrior, and then the Green Sun gets a short hair version because in that short film, he had short hair there. So that's just kind of the setup for as we kind of go through this review. Now, it was $130 for the two figures. if I look back, my initial thoughts are, yeah, 130 bucks wasn't really worth it. Now, keep in mind, 130 bucks for 2 figures with soft goods and things like that. Is it a terrible price? No, probably not. But again, I'm just not enough of a third-party collector to know, you know, the value compared to other figures, if it's there or not, if that makes sense. I think a fair comparison for these figures will be the Mezco Toys releases, because they are both soft goods figures. And you kind of have an idea from there. Now, those figures were, I don't know, 100 bucks each, or maybe slightly more. The Mezco figures are better, and I think that was always kind of to be expected. So just a heads up on there. What these figures do is it gives us this particular version of the Green Ranger, which we probably aren't going to get in any form. 3-0 is doing a 1/6 scale, right? That's like glow in the dark or something like that. But I don't see Mezco doing it unless they could. I don't see Super 7 doing it unless maybe they could. So that's the setup. So let's go ahead and get in for the closer looks at the 2 figures and talk about the suits and stuff like that. Okay, Green Ranger, up close look there. Yeah, not Jason David Frank at all. I think there's a likeness to somebody out there, and it could be a good generic head sculpt, but not a great likeness, and I don't necessarily think that they were going for a full-on likeness, because I just don't think that they could, you know. But the facial hair on there, like the 5 o'clock shadow, a little bit of a goatee there on the chin, that came out looking really good. So by itself, yeah, it's a good-looking head sculpt. You just don't see the actor in there. One thing that I just now realized, he's actually got some green highlights in his hair, and I'd have to go back on like that Versus episode to see if he had that in that particular short film. He must have, right? Makes sense. But enough of that head sculpt. Let's go ahead and pop that off. As you can see how it pegs in there, like so. And then here you just get this really long neck with some of that cloth just going over it, and then we could just pop this helmeted head on there. And that looks pretty good. So we have the helmeted head there. If anything, maybe I feel like it should be elongated a little bit. It seems a bit small, but otherwise pretty good. It's painted well with the silver and gold in there, so it looks pretty good. The dragon shield looks pretty good. There, nice gold color. We get some armor pieces there on the shoulder. We get those gold armbands. And then we get these different gloves and these different boots that we're used to. And then the design of the suit is a little bit different. One thing about this, we kind of get like that pleathery type material on the outside here. On the inside, we get that more, I don't know, nylon style soft goods. And then you can see like on the back of the figure, the arms are kind of that whole rubbery thing that we have going on there. And this one looks pretty good. This one's done a lot nicer than the White Ranger. Something about the White Ranger soft goods, it just reminds me of like old Mezco, where it looks very pajama-like. And just something about it, whereas Mezco just did, I think, a far superior job. But this, you know, looks okay. The Dragon Dagger we had shown you earlier. We do get a sheath for the Dragon Dagger, so you can actually just kind of sheath it in there. And I don't know if, let's see, I guess it would be more like that. I don't know if I like that. Yeah, I don't know how well it should be sitting in there, if it should just be like that. That doesn't seem right. It almost feels like it should be all the way in there, and that you should be able to clip this closed, but I feel like that doesn't really fit well. But anyway, we get this sheath, and then what you could do is you just hook it onto his belt there on the side, which is not as easy as you might want it to do, but I think the belt is floating. Ooh, I don't think the belt is floating. In the White Ranger, it's a floating belt. This guy is not a floating belt. So how are you supposed to put that on? That does not make any sense. Yeah, I don't know how that's supposed to work. I feel like there's not actually a way that that's going to work. So that's a little unfortunate. I'm going to have to check it out to see what I can do. I guess it's just really snug, so you can kind of get it in there, but it feels like there could have been a better way to do it. This is a very thick, like rubbery piece on there, but I got it on there. On the hands, we get fists out of the package, and then we get 3 extra sets of hands. So we have, we have a grip hand for the right hand, and then we also get like this, where is it? The dragon flute playing hand there for his right, and then we also kind of get this karate style hand, or just kind of open hand there. On the left, we get a regular grip. We get this finger pointing hand there, and then we also have this kind of open claw hand there. So that is the Green Sun or the Green Ranger. Let's go ahead and check out the White Ranger now. Okay, so I think this one looks even less like Tommy Oliver, but he's got the signature long hair and a ponytail there. But yeah, definitely not him. It's not a terrible head sculpt, and just in terms of Jason David Frank likeness, I don't think it's there. And then one tricky thing about it is, let's pop this head off. I'm scared that I'm going to rip this hair off the way it's rubbery, so be careful with that. This neck piece seems thicker, or maybe because of that cloth piece there, it just kind of is difficult to get the head over it, and so to where it doesn't bunch, and then you can properly fit it on there. It seems kind of weird. But we have the helmet here, and we can pop this on. And the helmet, I think, looks pretty good. I like it. It's a little bit more rounded, as the White Ranger one was. So I have no complaints with this. Head sculpt looks really good. The White Tiger shield armor piece looks really good. I really like the way it came out looking. We get those gold bands there on the upper arms. This belt piece is a floating piece there. One thing that I'm not the biggest fan of, and I wish they would have done this differently, is I wish they would have given him proper gloves. Like they gave gloves to the Green Ranger. Why not do this style for the White Ranger, as opposed to just this forearm piece that's floating there, and you could still see the soft goods underneath? I wish it would have been all one piece. And then the same exact thing for the boots. Like these are just these floating pieces here, and it's no actual boot. I wish it would have been a full-on boot, because hey, guess what? Green Ranger got full-on boots. This guy does not, and I think that was a little unfortunate, because they don't really stay. They can kind of float down. You just kind of have to pull them up and, you know, use friction to hold them in place. But yeah, there we go. That is the White Ranger. In terms of hands for him, he's got a bunch of different hands. So let's see, we got a standard grip hand there for the right. We also get, let's see, this open clawed hand there like we did for the Green Ranger. We also get this gesturing hand there with the hands out. Then we also get, let's see, we have 4 additional hands for the left. So we have just that kind of clawed out hand. We get the standard grip hand there. We get the hand with 2 fingers out there. We have this hand, which I think this is going to be like, I think a gesturing hand. I feel like that's almost how it would look when he's holding Saba, but this is not a hand that would hold Saba, so that doesn't really work. And then just kind of the hand straight out, like the chop hand there. So those are the accessories for the White Warrior and the Green Sun. Let's go ahead and see. Oh, wait, before I move on, Saba, he does have here. See, now, how's this going to work? Like, that's not going to fit. You have to stretch that out. Ooh, I don't like that at all. Unless, oh no, how you... Does this head come off? No. How are you supposed to do that? I don't like that design at all. That's, I mean, I guess it stretches and you can fit it. I don't like that at all. No, not a fan. This belt is way too floating. It just doesn't want to stay in one spot. But you can put the sheath on the belt there. But man, I do not like the design out of this at all. It feels like it doesn't really want to hook on too securely or anything there. Yeah, not a fan of that at all. But let me show you how they move. Okay, so let's go over the articulation. The points of articulation are pretty good between these two figures, but there's a major flaw in the hips, legs that I can't really seem to get over, and it kind of really bothers me. Let's start with the White Ranger, because I think he's a little bit easier to kind of move around. So the head sculpts, you get a full swivel in there. You can get the head to look up so much, which is good. You can get the head to tilt down and look down, which is good. You get a full rotation in there, and you get some good pivot going on with the neck, so not too bad. You can get the arm to go straight on out like so. You can get arm move forward, move back, move around, which is pretty good. It feels like there's a butterfly joint in there, so you can actually move that arm back and forth a bit. You got an upper bicep swivel in there. You get a double jointed elbow, gives you that much bend there at the elbow. Wrists are on a ball peg. so you can swivel them around, and then you can hinge, you know, whichever way you kind of like in there. So that is pretty good. A couple of points of articulation, like there's a ball joint in there, and then the diaphragm. So just in total, you could tilt to the left quite a bit, which is great. Total tilt to the right, you can tilt quite a bit, which is great. You can lean back a little bit, as you can see there, and then coming forward. Try not to move those hips in place. You coming forward, you can crunch down very far, which is great. I did separate the ball joint and the waist out of there. It can pop off together, but it pops right back in, which is good. And the articulation seems great so far, but my problem is in the hips. Look at this. You can't get the leg to stay out. It just wants to kick right back in, which is kind of crazy. Like, if I want to get him into a high kick, like, theoretically the figure could do that, but the leg just doesn't want to stay in place. And I don't know if that's the soft goods in it. No, because look at that. The White Ranger leg, the left leg sticks out. It's just the right leg just doesn't want to do it. Like, that's a flaw there, in my opinion. But anyway, legs could go out full splits if you wanted to. You got an upper thigh cut in there, which is great. Leg goes back quite a bit. You can kick forward that far. You got a double jointed knee in there, so that actually works out really well. There is a swivel at the thigh. The ankle swivels. You can hinge down a little bit. You can hinge up only slightly. There's some pivot in there, not a whole lot. No peg holes at the bottom of the feet. So that is pretty good. It's just the body itself feels kind of cheap, if you ask me. Like, they're not loose joints, but they're not stiff. It just doesn't feel of top quality, in my opinion. Going to the Green Ranger, it feels a little bit better because I think we have like a thicker suit. We have those rubber portions on there, which helps thicken it up a little bit. You can get him to look up. You can get him to look down. You can do the rotation. You can get the pivot on the neck and everything like that, just like in the White Ranger. The arm you can get to go straight on out like so, of course. It's got the same points of articulation in there. You can swivel the arm a little bit, but it's got the rubber overlay in there, so you really can't get it as much. Elbow's going to bend in that much there. Tilting on this guy, you could tilt that much, which is awesome. You could tilt the other way quite a bit as well, which is great. Leaning back, you could do quite a bit. Coming forward, look at that. See, I separated those pieces, and they just snap right back in, which is good. So without moving the hips, you can crunch forward that much. If you factor in the hips, you can get them to go down quite a ways, which is great. The legs, you can get that far apart. The right leg kicks back a little bit as well, so it's just an issue with that body. Now the left does a little bit, but you can get it to hold much better than this one. You just can't. You can't do it. I don't know what it is about the body that makes that issue in there. You get the upper thigh cut in there, double jointed knee there, no boot swivel in there. You get the same amount of ankle movement, which isn't a whole lot, so just heads up. Swivel is good. Hinge down a little bit, but it's on a ball peg, so you're just not going to get a whole lot of movement in there, and I feel like, yeah, I don't like that as much. That foot comes off a little too easily. So there we go. There's the articulation on the Green Sun and the White Ranger. Good points of articulation is just the body itself. I wish was a little bit better. Okay, so trying to get these figures kind of posed out in certain ways, like you can't really get the Green Ranger to play the dragon flute, dragon dagger, very well. The way the hands are, the hands themselves are sculpted nicely, but they're very rubbery, and so like, trying to get them on there and trying to use the hinge just doesn't really work out. They don't stay on there like very much at all. They just kind of sit on there and you just pull them off. You can't really use the hinge because the rubber is just too soft. You can't get it. It doesn't grip that peg enough to really hinge that peg on there. So it doesn't really work, and you have to try and get that glove back on, push back, so you can really get a good, put the hand onto that peg nice and solid. It just doesn't really work out. We have kind of the same issues on the White Ranger. So it's very frustrating, and I'm just not a very, very, very big fan of that. So we're just going to go ahead and move on to the comparisons with the Lightning Collection, and then the comparisons with the Mezco figures, and then we'll end it there. Okay, so Green Ranger next to the Mezco, and yes, the Mezco isn't perfect. I really like it. The hands are a little small, the feet are a little small, the head's a little big, but I like it. It just looks, it looks like it came right out of the TV show. Whereas this one, it's a different version of a Green Ranger, so it's kind of hard to do like a proper comparison, I would say. It still looks really good. There's Lightning Collection, so you can see Lightning Collection is significantly smaller. But I like the original suit much better on the Green Ranger. And then looking at this one, I feel like he should have a bigger head. Yes, Mezco's is a little too big, but something in between I think would have looked nice. But again, I just like the green of this suit a little bit more, and I feel like this one matches the show. But this one again is a different, totally different version, so that's why it's different. And of course, I got to do the Green Ranger versus Ryu in the Superpower Beatdown is what it was actually called, in which Green Ranger did win. But as you can see here, the two don't really scale well together. I mean, you could fudge it, sure, but Ryu is pretty darn short there. So you can make it work at certain poses and things like that. Okay, so now the White Ranger, kind of the same things that I had in comparison with the Green Rangers, but this time at least the suits are the same. Mezco's going to win this round. One thing that the Tree New Toys does significantly better is the accurate coloring on the belt and the shield itself, because we didn't get this bronze color like the Mezco did for whatever reason. Mezco did the bronze color on there, but they did proper gloves, proper boots, whereas Tree New Toys did not do that. And then here you can see Lightning Collection significantly smaller. One thing that between these two figures and kind of what it makes it feel like, if you think of Mezco as the Hasbro Lightning Collection and you think of the Tree New Toys as like the Bandai Legacy, that's kind of how I feel like, in comparing the two figures. Whereas the Bandai Legacy were good figures on their own, I preferred the Lightning Collection for the more realistic proportions and tightness to the body itself, whereas the Bandai Legacy felt like it could be really loose in some parts. That's how I feel about these two figures, and I think that's the best way I can accurately describe that. Okay, so at the end of the day, these two figures are now part of my collection. $130, I feel like I overpaid for them just based on the quality of figures. With Mezco figures being $100+ each, I think the quality is there. You have a good sturdy figure with good soft goods and all kinds of good accessories to go along with it. Whereas these ones, I just don't feel like they're quite there. It's cool that they have soft goods, so I feel like it could be an entry point for collectors with these type of figures. But again, my lack of experience with third-party figures is probably factoring a lot into how I feel about these. So for me, it doesn't quite seem worth it to me. Others may feel differently, but that's just kind of how I feel on that. If you guys have these figures, you guys let me know down in the comments below. Is there something I'm missing? What do you guys think about it? Do you regret purchasing them? Are you extremely happy with your purchase? Let me know down in the comments below. If you guys liked this video, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. I'm so close to 50,000 subscribers. That is my goal for the end of the year, is to hit 50,000 subs. So I'm hoping to earn your subscription today. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. And as always, guys, thank you for watching.